graders? What's the matter? You've never seen a mermaid celebrate Halloween before? Okay, so this week we're starting on learning about oceans. You actually learned about oceans last year with your 4th grade teacher, so this is a review for us. We'll be moving through rather quickly, but we will be covering things like the ocean floor, ocean currents. We'll be learning about the food web in the ocean, and ocean environments and how they affect the animals and the plants that live there. It's going to be a great time. I can't wait to get... You just never know who you're going to see in the ocean. Let's get started. Okay, so today, friends, we're going to learn about the ocean floor. Since you did learn about the ocean floor last year as well, we are going to move along rather fast. I told you at the beginning of the year that we normally have a 5th grade science SOL, and it covers everything in 4th and 5th grade science. Due to COVID, things are a little different. Even though SOL tests are not counting, there is a chance we would need to prove some knowledge or that we covered the information at the end of the year. So I do want to make sure I do all the same reviews that I would do even if this was a high stakes SOL test year. So for the ocean floor, we're going to draw our basic shape of the ocean floor first, and then we'll go back and label it. So I'm going to start at the top, maybe about 2 lines down. And I'm going to start by drawing a diagonal line that maybe goes 2.5 lines deep, like that. And then I'm going to make it go down on a steep drop off. And if you remember from last year, you probably know what that steep drop off is. It's going to have a curve at the bottom. And then we're going to have an indent like that. And then over here, we're gonna have what almost looks like a mountain. So your pattern will look something like this. I would highly suggest go ahead and pausing and getting it into your notebook so that you can continue on. Notice we're using the whole page for this diagram of the ocean floor. Because we're drawing the ocean, we need some ocean water. So I'm gonna start over here, maybe an inch away from the beginning of my line, and I'm gonna do some waves going across. All right. Okay, so talking about the ocean floor, the very first part of the ocean floor is called the Continental Shelf. The Continental Shelf. I like to think of it as literally a shelf sticking out from the side of the continent. Every continent has this edge going around it where there is an ocean boundary. The Continental Shelf begins very early in the ocean. If you were to go play at the beach, as soon as you stepped in that water to play in the ocean waves, you are standing on the Continental Shelf. By the way, this is our first picture of the screaming teacher. If you have older siblings, you'll have to add that have had me recently. Ask them about the screaming teacher. She shows up often in our notes. She's happy today though, she's at the beach. Let's add a few little things for fun. Here's her beach umbrella. Okay, so as soon as you step in the ocean water, you're in the Continental Shelf. Now, on our picture, we had to do this big drop off right here. Our picture is not in scale. You are not in danger of stepping off of that Continental Shelf when you're playing in the ocean. This Continental Shelf goes way out to approximately 430 feet deep. So if you are far enough out in the ocean to be where the water is that deep, you have a lot more things to be concerned about than the slope. Okay, which I just told you what our next item is. So the next part of the ocean floor is the Continental Slope. The Continental Slope, and it is an extreme drop-off. The drop-off can be as deep as 2 miles. Very deep water. If you remember in Finding Nemo, I'm gonna put a boat up here, when the kids were at school and they were daring each other to touch the bottom of the boat. They called it something else that I refuse to say while I'm being taped, but they were daring each other to touch the bottom of it, and that is when Nemo ended up getting caught. And they were referring to the drop-off. This Continental Slope is what they were referring to, and if you ever go back and watch the movie, you'll see it's a deep, dark area around the boat where they were talking about. Now, they describe the Continental Slope like it's plunging like a roller coaster. Plunges like a roller coaster. Okay? Makes me think a bit of the roller coaster, the Griffin at Busch Gardens. I like to say I am brave enough to get on it. No, thank you. Never have been. I never will. But if you have ever been there and stood on the bridge and watched it, which I have done multiple times waiting for my kids, the coaster comes and it's at the top of the hill and it comes over and it just pauses and people are hanging over screaming, not knowing when they're gonna drop, and then it takes that plunge. The relationship of the Continental Shelf and the Continental Slope remind me of the Griffin of a roller coaster and that drop that comes. Now, imagine if this was a roller coaster. So we're gonna do a little funny on here right now. There's a little roller coaster car, there's the wheels, and here's screaming teacher again. So imagine, now she really is screaming, if it was a roller coaster. And what it would be like if we were riding it down. Would we want it to end sudden and flat like this? What would happen to screaming teacher? Or would we like a nice gentle curve? Okay, if you've ever actually watched the Griffin, even the Griffin has a curve on the end to bring the roller coaster back level again. That curve on the ocean floor has a name. That curve going from about here to here is known as the Continental Rise. The name is deceiving. A lot of fifth graders think Continental Rise and they think it's like a hill before the slope. It's not a hill. It's literally just the curve, the connector of the slope and the abyssal plain. It connects them together. All right, the next part of our ocean floor is referred to as the abyssal plain, and it is the large, flat, wide area of the ocean floor. Our picture, because it's not in scale, we don't have enough room to really represent the abyssal plain as it should be. The name abyssal plain is a very good one for this part of the ocean because of that word abyss. An abyss is something that goes on and on and on. I want to say old Western movies and in books, sometimes they refer to somebody walking into the sunset, into the abyss. That means it looks like they're just going on and on. That's a good description of the abyssal plain. It is a large, flat, dark area. The sun can't reach down there, so there are no live plants. There's so much pressure from the water that very little animals can live down there. The ones that do live down there are especially acclimated for that area, like the anglerfish. Let me do a little fish. There's a sharp teeth that is adapted with the light, where he can attract fish and have them as a meal when they get close. So the abyssal plain goes on and on. It's very flat, very dark, very little, few live organisms. Just like our geography on the continents, and when we talked about geography, we talked about mountains and plains and valleys. If we were to take all the water out of the ocean, the ground that was left would look a lot like our continents, like our land. You're gonna find oceans and canyons. We call an ocean canyon an ocean trench. I'm gonna come over here. This little dip is representing our trench. This is referred to as the ocean trench. We briefly talked about ocean trenches and how they were created when we talked about plate tectonics in science class. That's the movement of the plates under the earth, and we talked about how they caused earthquakes and things like that. With an ocean trench, it's when we have convergent boundaries going towards each other, but because that pressure of the water is weighing down on it so hard, instead of coming up and creating mountains, it is going down, 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 and creating those ocean trenches in the water. We have one very, very deep ocean trench. It is the deepest ocean trench, and it is called the Marianas Trench. And it is found in the Pacific Ocean. The Marianas Trench is about 36,000 feet, just a little bit more, and which is very deep. I want to give you an idea of just how deep that is. Over on this back side of this page, I'm going to draw a little picture demonstrating, if you could as well. So the Marianas Trench is about 6 times bigger than the Grand Canyon. So if you have ever seen pictures of the Grand Canyon, it is huge. I have never been there. I would like to go, but if I go, I have a fear of heights. I would not stand on the edge like I see people. It is so deep. So if I was to represent this, this would be the Marianas Trench. I'm going to go down 6 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. There's 6. This is representing the Marianas Trench. And we just said that it's a little more than 36,000 feet. All right, and I said it was way bigger than the Grand Canyon. Let's compare. The Grand Canyon is about 5,300 feet deep, which we're going to estimate Grand Canyon. We're going to estimate that the Marianas Trench is 6 times bigger about than the Grand Canyon. Look at that. We could just about fit 6 Grand Canyons inside the Marianas Trench. That is deep. I don't know where scientists are at it right now. Remember when we talked about the layers of the earth that nobody has ever dug through the crust yet? The crust is thinnest in the ocean, and there were a group of scientists at one time trying to drill through the bottom of the Marianas Trench to try to get through the crust, but the pressure of the ocean was so great that all the drills would break. And they also can't send people down there because it would also kill them. Think of all the weight of that water upon them. All right, back over to here. So we've talked about the continental shelf. That's when you first step on the beach. It's like a shelf coming off the continent. And then we have that extreme drop off, the 2 miles. Poor screaming teacher. Fortunately, she's saved because of that Continental Rise at the bottom that helps bring her to a gentle stop. The abyssal plain is the large, flat, dark area. In the abyssal plain, we have things like ocean trenches, and we also have things called seamounts. So this is representing a seamount. A seamount is an underwater volcano, and when an underwater volcano is active, it can erupt. Even though it's underwater, it can have the lava come out. And remember, the lava will cool and harden. Do you remember what type of rock it is when we have lava that cools and hardens? I'm imagining in my mind 45, 46 young voices screaming out, "Igneous rock, Ms. Hicksonbaugh." All right, so it cools and hardens and makes that seamount a little taller. It erupts again, it's a little taller. And I'm going to change color so it doesn't run into my Continental Slope words. It erupts again, it's a little taller. It's a little taller. This keeps happening until, or it can keep happening until it is poking up out of the water. And any guesses of what we have then? We have the creation of an island. We have the creation of an island. All right, that is the end of our notes for the ocean floor. If you need to, go ahead and pause it for a moment so you can get caught up. Thank you very much.